Cuomo suggests Mamdani would cheer a future terror attack. This is, I think, such a spectacular, overwhelmingly racist line of attack. It is so clear what this is. Now, he went on Sid Rosenberg's radio show, and Sid Rosenberg is a very conservative Jewish radio show host, and they had a back and forth on this radio show where they were talking about Zohran Mamdani and 9/11. Here's what took place.
There's a crisis, and people's lives are at stake. God forbid another 9/11. Can you imagine Mamdani in the seat?
Hey, I could. He'd be cheering.
Well, it's another problem. But can you imagine that?
No.
Listen. If Mamdani was in the seat on 9/11.
Yeah.
What would have happened in the seat?
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Just straight up saying, like, he'd be cheering on the 9/11 attack if he was the mayor, if another 9/11 was happening. I mean, this is the most transparent version. This is the most transparent version of racism. Like, it's such an overtly racist thing to say about a Muslim candidate that any sort of comparison to any other marginalized population that I would invoke would, even by pure analog, would make me look like I'm an unrelentless racist. And here is Zohran's response to it.
Before you sat down here, on Sid Rosenberg's radio show, your opponent Andrew Cuomo said this, quote, God forbid another 9/11. Can you imagine Mamdani in the seat, end quote. Rosenberg responded by saying he'd be cheering. Andrew Cuomo said, quote, that's another problem. I want to get your reaction.
This is disgusting. This is Andrew Cuomo's final moments in public life, and he's choosing to spend them making racist attacks on the person who would be the first Muslim to lead this city. And frankly, it's not about me. It's about the fact that there are more than 1 million Muslims who live in New York City. And to have our faith be smeared and slandered.
For the record, this is part of the reason why he can't just like outright say, oh, Hasan sucks, it's not me, when slam with the 9/11 because there are very few victories there for him. Okay, that's the maximalist position. But he knows where that resentment is coming from. He knows that this is cynical framing, which is why I was a little upset initially with his disavowal of the globalize the intifada narratives. He made that calculation in the moment that it was not worthy of having to defend over and over again. And he just didn't want to have to be inundated with this line of attack. So he thought he could just simply say, oh, well, you know, the globalized intifada thing, I don't say it, I disavow it, blah, blah, blah. It seems like a lot, I've done some learning. It seems like a lot of people, have a different approach to what it is, right? But it didn't do anything. It didn't stop. And just like his disavowal or condemnation of me, if he were to do that, would not stop the Islamophobic line of attacks. You have to, at a certain point, address the exact root cause of why this cynical approach is happening. And he's doing that right now. He's doing that right at this very moment where he says it is the dying last gasp of a desperate candidate that is endorsing full-throated Islamophobic attacks against his Muslim opponent. And the very fact that Democrats are not all incredibly angry at Andrew Cuomo for, one, refusing to drop out of the race, and two, allowing him to basically exist within the Democrat infrastructure while doing these sorts of bigoted lines of attack, not just against Muslims either, but against all different marginalized backgrounds, as we saw in last night's AI attack ad that he crafted, that they quickly posted and deleted. The very fact that a person who is claiming to be a true Democrat, an institutional Democrat on this race, is hitting maximalist, Islamophobic, and racist attacks against the actual Democrat on the ticket is insane.
standard by someone who at one point was considered a leader in the Democratic Party showcases the fact that bigotry and racism is not exclusively a Republican problem. It is also a problem within our own party. And it is time that we turn the page on Andrew Cuomo and those that would tolerate this kind of rhetoric from him as well.
Yeah, I can hear the passion and emotion in your voice. It's personal for you.
It is. I mean, it just... To describe myself and describe Muslims in this manner, it begs the question of why this kind of rhetoric is acceptable when we're speaking about Muslim New Yorkers. Because all Muslim New Yorkers want is to feel a sense of equality and respect that every New Yorker deserves. And even that is being denied by the former governor.
With a dire picture of Mamdani mayoralty, Cuomo plays to voters' fears. What a spectacular way to frame unrestrained and unrestricted racism, okay? Andrew Cuomo is escalating his warnings that mayhem would follow a victory by Zohran Mamdani, even posting an AI-generated video that depicts his supporters as criminals. On Thursday, he urged Sid Rosenberg to imagine Mamdani in that seat if there's another September 11. Yeah, I could. He'd be cheering, he said. Cuomo left. That's another problem. It's just a little bit of, playing into the fears of the voters. I'm willing to bet that if you were to ask voters what they fear more, the actual Islamophobia or Muslims in general, I would suspect the unrestrained Islamophobia would be more like the unrestrained bigotry, not just against Muslims, but against all marginalized populations, all marginalized backgrounds would probably be more of a concern for New York City voters, I think. And obviously that is the case. And that is precisely the reason why Zohran is 20 plus points on fucking Andrew Cuomo. And when asked to, when called into question his remarks about Zohran Mamdani, on the Sid Rosenberg show, this is what he retaliated with. It was just like last night when he was asked about directly addressing his victims, specifically the one that was in the room. He turned around and said, "Oh, why don't you do BDS on Uganda?" A guy who was trying to present himself as like the Democrat Party's alternative, even though he lost the primaries, can easily go on a right-wing show and be unrestrained and racist, while simultaneously turning around and being like, but this progressive guy who works with the Democrats, okay, me, that association is unacceptable. It's ridiculous.
The host said whatever the host said. All right, that's the host. Go talk to the host.
Okay, the host said whatever the host said. The f do you mean? This entire campaign, you've been like, oh, well, what about what Hasan Piker said in 2019? I didn't bring up 9/11 to Zohran, and Zohran was like, yeah, it's awesome. Let's do another one in our conversation. In your situation, you did that this morning. Asshole.
About that. I said about 9/11, that's another problem, referring to what I have said repeatedly, which is I have a problem with the fact that Zohran pals around with Hasan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11. I did a press conference with Wendy and Sal to Churchill. Sal is dying from 9/11 illness. 10,000.
Bro, this is such a nutty thing. This is him defending his position on Islamophobia today, this morning. And then in defense of that, he's like, well, 6 years ago, 6 years prior to Zohran meeting Hassan Abbey, he once famously said America deserved 9/11 when talking about American foreign policy and the impact called blowback, a concept that has academic consensus. Me and Zohran did not talk about 9/11, brother. What are you talking about? This is unironically the same shit these guys do all the time, where they're like, whoa, I can't believe you went on the Joe Rogan Experience. You know what I mean? Also, what's crazy about it is that Andrew Cuomo's own personal track record is insane in comparison to what he thinks he can attack Zohran over, which is an affiliation with a Twitch streamer whose quote he is unearthing from 6 years ago. Okay? A concept where there is academic consensus on, for the record. Not said in the best possible way, but regardless,